Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Master of None here. We're currently in day 3 of the End of Dragons beta, where we get to test out the 3 medium armor classes elite specs. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any End of Dragons content. In this video, I will talk about the Specter and the Untamed together, since I haven't spent nearly as much time with them as I did with the Mechanist. I'm actually still playing that one and will probably go back to the Engineer as soon as I finish recording. There are a couple of reasons for this. First of all, Specter feels like a spec that will need quite a bit of time to get used to. The buildcraft looks very fun if you're into that, but I'm usually not someone that likes to create builds from scratch. Instead, I prefer taking a strong build and then start iterating it from there to find things that I enjoy. However, the Specter was so out there and felt really different that I stopped testing quite soon. I do love what the existence of Specter could mean for the game though. Like I mentioned in the previous video where I summarized the main profession mechanics of all 3 specs, EoD dipping its toes in more traditional healing styles could lead to a huge shift in how we play the game. It didn't take very long for me, however, to reinforce the foreshadowing thoughts that I had during the livestream. With the way the Guild Wars 2 UI is set up currently, I just could not get into the new healing and support style of the Specter. At the very least, I've now made a key binding for target closest ally, which I didn't even know existed before. I wish that if EoD keeps this style of healing in the game and maybe even adds it to some existing specializations, that at the very least we get to decouple the party frame and drag it closer towards the middle. Even better if I can then only hover over a party member and press the keybind of the skill I want to cast without having to target them first. This is called mouse over macros in other MMOs and they make healing so much more enjoyable to me. Until then, I'll leave it up to others to comment and critique the spec. Definitely let me know if you spent some time on the Specter. There's also an option for ArenaNet to change the Specter in a way that the scepter attacks will bounce off enemies to the most injured ally, similar to Staff of Mesmer, keeping the healing single target, but instead of manually targeting allies, it would smartly choose the most injured target. I think this would be a bit of a shame if they would have to go down that route, but I have no idea how spaghetti coded the Guild Wars 2 UI is. I'm afraid it's quite hard for them to make any significant changes to it. So what's up with the Untamed and why haven't I spent a lot of time on it? If I had to summarize it, it just felt like Catalyst 2.0 to me, which, if you've seen my video on that, isn't a good thing. When I came back to the game, I was convinced that Ranger would finally be my new main. I absolutely adored Soul Beast when POF was released, since I love classes that are versatile. Getting access to so many different skills by merging with different pets at the right time was amazing. Also, I really enjoyed healing and buffing allies as a druid in Fractals. Upon returning, I learned that druid has long fallen out of the meta for 5-man content, and in the meantime, Soul Beast lost my favorite aspect, swapping pets during combat. This just turned me off completely from Ranger for the moment, and it's why I had high hopes that Untamed could maybe turn that around, thanks to the Guild Wars 1 vibes. As it stands currently, however, that is sadly not the case. I don't think it's as incohesive as the Catalyst, but it still requires quite a lot of changes for me to be able to enjoy this spec. First of all, I thought this would be the Beast Mastery spec that lets you unleash your pet. Turns out that currently your pet doesn't even seem to get the unleash damage bonus. Unleashing your pet also means that the 3 skills of it change, and it doesn't matter what pet you have, they are always the same. Problem is, these 3 skills often felt weaker than the regular skills of the pet. I would prefer if only 1 or 2 skills would change instead of all 3, and even better if one of them was at least different from pet family to pet family. See, what I would want to do is unleash my Drake, for example, make him teleport to the enemy with F1, and then use the buffed up tail swipe, but this is currently not possible. As it stands, the Mechanist felt way more like a Beastmaster than the Ranger has ever been able to. I already talked about it in that video, but to me it felt really bad losing the regular pet attack commands. Now there's a good possibility that I just need more time with Untamed, but these somewhat questionable design decisions also carried on to the hammer. I was definitely missing a leap on that weapon, and a more defensive skill like an evade or a block. the hammer itself felt quite undertuned to me. Like, I love the idea of setting up a knockdown with your pet and then using Unleashed Wild Swing on hammer 2 to deal massive damage, but the damage wasn't massive at all, and I was better off just switching off to Greatsword and using Maul, without having to think what state my enemy was in. So the payoff just isn't there for me yet, and I wish they would bump up the bonus damage on CC'd enemies by quite a bit. Some other minor things that I found annoying was not being able to see the tooltip for both stances when hovering over a hammer skill. I assume Ainit will still change this until release, but it made learning the new weapon set quite a bit more challenging. I also found it somewhat hard to tell if I was in Unleashed form or not. I would like some type of glow around my skills to indicate when I'm Unleashed, similar to Revenant Legends or Berserk mode for Warrior. So yeah, all in all, I don't think the spec is terrible, but it will need some tuning and adjustments. I still love the idea of pulling off these huge combos together with your pet, but it just currently doesn't feel that way. Being shoehorned into hammer wouldn't feel all too bad to me if the hammer actually feels fun to use. Those are my first impressions on the Specter and the Untamed. If I end up spending some more time with them and my opinion changes, I'll make a follow-up video on it, but for now, I would love to hear your experiences with the specs, so let me know in the comments below. I saw Syndrener play a Power Specter build in PvP, which looked surprisingly fun. But then again, when you play a class at such a high level, probably any build will look fun. I'm currently still spending quite a bit of time PvPing on the Mechanist, and will probably make a video on my experiences soon. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.